Welcome back to CIA Declassified. The 1950s and 60s are often remembered as the golden age of the American middle class, a time when a union card was a passport of stability. But beneath the surface of the post-war boom, a paranoid wind was blowing through the factories of Detroit, Pittsburgh, and Chicago. The CIA viewed the factory floor not as a place of production, but as a battleground of ideology. To the agency, a strike wasn't just a dispute over wages, it was a potential red contagion that could paralyze the arsenal of democracy. Imagine a union hall in 1958. The air is thick with the scent of sawdust and cheap tobacco. At the front of the room stands a man named Jimmy, a charismatic, grease-stained welder with a beard who speaks with the fiery conviction of a true believer. He calls for a walkout, a stand against the industrial titans. The men cheer, unaware that Jimmy doesn't exist. He is an operational asset of JGMASK. His work history is a fiction crafted in a basement in Langley. His mission is not to win the strike, but to steer it into a dead end, to identify the radical elements for blacklisting, and to ensure that the union's leadership remains domesticated. This was the Mask of Solidarity, a play where the actors were spies and the audience was the American worker. How do you build a ghost leader? Well, it's easy. The Technical Services Division, which focused on the creation of total immersion identities. The JGMASK protocol required deep seeding, meaning an operative had to live the life of a laborer for years before moving into a position of influence. They were provided with aged documentation, union dues receipts from defunct locals, backdated medical records showing industrial injuries, and social validation through fabricated family ties in distant cities. The technical challenge was the background audit. In a tight-knit union town, everyone knows someone who knows you. The agency utilized front employers, smaller machine shops and shipping firms, to provide a verifiable paper trail for the operative's supposed previous employment. They worked on identity shielding, ensuring that if a rival union member grew suspicious and vetted the newcomer, they would find a boring, perfectly consistent history of blue-collar service. The infiltration wasn't just about showing up, it was about becoming the target, turning the trust of the Brotherhood into a surveillance asset. Why the designation JGMASK? While many CIA cryptonyms are random, internal lore suggests this was a deliberate, cynical nod to J. Lovestone, a former leader of the Communist Party USA who became one of the CIA's most effective labor assets. Lovestone helped the agency build the Free Trade Union Committee, a front used to split international labor movements. The mask refers to the double face required of the operatives, a pro-worker exterior concealing a state security interior. Research indicates the name was selected by the Domestic Operations Division to symbolize the hidden guidance of the American labor force. We are documenting the inventory of the union-busting era. Here is the verifiable record of JGMASK. JGMASK was a domestic-based operation coordinated by the CIA's Office of Policy Coordination. The operation targeted militant rank-and-file movements within the United Auto Workers. Records show the use of subsidized newspapers to spread internal dissent against union leaders who opposed federal foreign policy. The project utilized psychological profiling to identify workers who were susceptible to incentives for becoming informants. Documentation confirms the CIA collaborated with private detective agencies to share blacklist data on labor organizers. Internal memos reveal the agency struggled with identity drift, where operatives began to genuinely sympathize with the workers' plight. The JGMASK files confirm that the agency provided secret legal funding for rival union factions to tie up radical locals in court. Documentation indicates the project used honeypot operations to compromise and neutralize union firebrands. Records verify the project used front companies in the manufacturing sector to provide cover employment for field agents. The CIA maintained a master roster of every labor leader in the Midwest, categorized by political reliability. Documentation shows that the agency developed whisper campaign scripts designed to link civil rights activists with foreign saboteurs. The agency experimented with acoustic surveillance inside union halls using concealed transmitters and furniture. Records confirm that the exploit was designed to bypass labor law protections by using independent contractors as intermediaries. The CIA utilized third-party consultants from major corporations to coordinate lockouts that favored agency-friendly union factions. Internal reports verified the project successfully fractured the solidarity of the longshoremen in key Atlantic ports. Documentation confirms the agency tracked draft status of union activists to use as leverage for cooperation. The project researched subliminal messaging in union-targeted radio broadcasts to discourage aggressive bargaining. Records verify the use of encrypted dead drops located in industrial brownfields for communication with deep cover assets. The CIA documented that controlled chaos during strikes was an effective way to trigger police intervention. Records show the agency considered financial sabotage of union strike funds through shell company litigation. The project mapped the ethnic divides in steel towns to stoke tensions and prevent unified labor actions. Documentation indicates the CIA tested voice stress analysis on recorded union meetings to detect true intent. The agency maintained a hardware library of specialized micro cameras disguised as toolboxes. Records verify the project investigated visual signals, such as specific hat colors, to coordinate agent actions during riots. The CIA used simulated union halls at their Camp Perry facilities to train operatives in labor rhetoric. Documentation shows the agency tracked social network nodes long before the digital age. The project utilized dual accounting to hide the operational cost of JGMASK from standard audits. Records verify that the infiltration manual cautioned agents against using high intelligence vocabulary while on the shop floor. Internal memos describe the infiltrated union as the, quote, first line of defense, end quote, against domestic unrest. Operatives were trained to use coded slang specific to the steel and automotive industries to avoid detection by veterans. The CIA utilized the International Confederation of Free Trade Unions as an international clearinghouse for JGMASK-related intelligence. Records verify the agency sabotaged the publication of pro-labor literature by infiltrating regional printing presses. Documentation confirms that Agent-Provocateurs were ordered to incite violence during peaceful pickets to justify a National Guard deployment. The CIA created ghost locals, unions that existed only on paper, to cast votes in national labor conventions. Internal files reveal the use of microdots hidden on the back of union membership cards for high-speed data transfer. The agency recruited disgruntled ex-union officials to serve as technical advisors for infiltrational logistics. Documentation confirms that JGMASK assets successfully blocked the unionization of several high-priority defense contractor plants. Records show the CIA analyzed grocery store receipts of union leaders to identify personal weaknesses or extravagant spending. The project utilized false flag recruitment, where workers thought they were spying for a rival union, not the CIA. Internal reports verify the agency maintained listening posts in apartments directly adjacent to major union headquarters. Documentation shows that Agent Jimmy archetypes were cycled through multiple cities to prevent any single community from looking too close at their past. The CIA experimented with sleep deprivation tactics during prolonged negotiations to weaken union bargaining teams. Records verify that JGMASK provided the blueprint for the later Operation Chaos. The agency developed erasable ink for use in secret union ballot boxes. Documentation confirms that psychological operations or PSYOPs teams produced anti-strike cartoons for local distribution. The CIA monitored the mail correspondence of union leaders' families to find additional pressure points. Records show the agency utilized medical malingering, faking illnesses, to excuse operatives from high scrutiny union social events. Internal memos state that the neutralization of a single charismatic leader was worth 10 standard informants. Documentation verifies that JGMASK was funded through a series of nonprofit foundations that functioned as CIA cutouts. The project came to a close only when digital surveillance rendered physical infiltration less cost-effective. Now, as far as quotes go, here's one from a declassified training manual for Agent-Provocateurs. Success in these operations is defined by the absence of noise. When the strike fails quietly, the mission is accomplished. Quote from a declassified 1962 CIA status report. The introduction of covert assets into the domestic workforce is a necessary safeguard against the subversion of industrial production. Quote from a declassified internal memo from the Domestic Operations Division. In the field of labor, the line between an informant and a leader is a matter of agency discretion. A quote from a declassified CIA internal review of the program. The goal is strategic moderation, ensuring that even the most vocal leaders never cross the line of acceptable dissent. A quote from Jeff Schuhrke, Schuhrke, a labor historian. It was a series story of AFL-CIA intrigues that turned brothers into suspects and suspects into ghosts. And a quote from a declassified operational field guide. The most effective way to control a movement is to lead it yourself, end quote. The declassified record of JGMASK is a skeleton, but the marrow is missing. The most significant redactions occur in the Executive Action Addendum Strike Resolution Protocols. This section is a massive black void in the archives. We're talking about roughly 215 pages of total redaction in the specific addendum. Throughout these pages, the agency cites Exemption B1 for national security information and Exemption B7 subsection E, which protects techniques and procedures for law enforcement investigations or prosecutions. This effectively means the government believes that revealing how they broke these strikes would provide a roadmap for modern activists to bypass their current methods. What are they hiding? I think these redactions cover planned industrial accidents. There is speculation that the agency developed protocols to trigger controlled equipment failures during critical strike periods to force workers back to the table or to blame radical saboteurs. I also believe the redactions hide political assassination blueprints, not of physical bodies, but of character assassinations involving manufactured criminal records or fabricated evidence of treason. Finally, I think the blacked out pages contain the corporate partnership list, the names of American CEOs who provided the sponsorship and work sites for these operatives. The redacted volumes suggest a level of public-private collusion that would fundamentally rewrite the history of American industry if ever fully exposed. When the government wears a hard hat, the theories start to brew in the break room. For instance, there's one called the synthetic stoppage theory, which speculates that JGMASK didn't just stop strikes, it started them. The theory argues that the agency triggered premature strikes and weak locals to bleed dry the national union's treasury, ensuring they wouldn't have the resources to fight for better contracts during the next Big Three negotiation. The neural solidarity speculation. There is a darker belief that the agency experimented with chemical compliance in the drinking water of specific union halls. Theorists speculate that cooperatives introduced apathy-inducing agents to lower the morale of the workforce during long negotiations, turning firebrands into sheep. Then there's the shadow pension drain theory. This posits that JGMASK was a front for pension fund laundering. Speculation suggests the agency diverted portions of union pension funds through shell management firms to fund off-book covert ops in Latin America, effectively making the American worker pay for the global crusade without their knowledge. Then there's the genetic blacklist speculation, a radical theory that suggests that JGMASK wasn't just tracking names, but lineages. Theorists argue the agency believed rebelliousness was a hereditary trait and used the project to map out families of labor agitators, ensuring their children and grandchildren would be systematically denied employment in sensitive industrial sectors through a multi-generational blacklist. Was JGMASK a success? Tactically, it was a masterclass in erosion. It succeeded in sterilizing the labor movement of its most militant leaders. By the mid-70s, many unions had transitioned from advocacy organizations to administrative bureaucracies. The project successfully drove a wedge between the rank and file and their leadership, creating a trust deficit that persists to this day. When some operatives were exposed, the operational density was high enough that the cumulative effect was a total containment of labor as a radical political force. Strategically, it was the blueprint for managed dissent. It proved that a democracy can be stabilized by subverting its internal organizations from within. It taught the intelligence community that identity politics and class tensions are the most effective levers for social control. Strategically, JGMASK birthed the internal stability doctrine, where the goal is not to suppress a movement, but to co-opt it until it serves the very power it was meant to challenge. As far as operational and technological breakthroughs go, it's responsible for quite a few, such as deep cover identity aging, the process of creating living identities with verified social roots and paper trails that can withstand years of scrutiny. Today, this is used in cyber-human intelligence. The intelligence community uses these aged profiles to infiltrate extremist online communities or foreign corporate structures. By building digital work histories and social validation over years, these cyber-provocateurs can shape the narrative of a group from the inside, just as Jimmy did in the steel mills. Friction point analysis, identifying the sociological cleavages, race, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation within a group and using targeted disinformation to expand them. This is a core component of modern information operations, or I/O. State actors use algorithmic amplification to identify and inflame cultural divides and target populations. The wedge strategy of JGMASK is now automated, turning social media feeds into a digital union hall where solidarity is replaced by polarization. Strategic moderation modeling, developing communication templates that allow a leader to sound passionate while actually advocating for compromise and de-escalation. This is used in crisis management and negotiation psychology. In the intelligence world, it is applied to puppet leadership programs in developing nations. By providing pre-approved rhetoric that satisfies the public's need for action while delivering status quo results, the intelligence community can maintain stability in volatile regions. Network isolation protocols, techniques to atomize a group, making each member suspicious of the other to prevent coordinated resistance. This is used in counterinsurgency, or COIN operations to break the chain of command in rebel groups. By spreading paranoia-inducing intel, such as fake informant list, the military can cause a group to self-cannibalize, destroying its operational cohesion without firing a single shot. Social node mapping, the early tracking of informal leaders and opinion makers within a closed organization. This logic drives modern social network analysis tools used by the military to map insurgent cells. By identifying the nodes, people, with the most influence, the intelligence community can apply precision neutralization, removing the social glue of an organization rather than its entire membership. Credential verification deception, the art of creating verifiable work certifications and professional standing for non-existent persons. This is a standard breakthrough for covert action support. Today, the military uses this to embed technical specialists in foreign infrastructure projects, power plants, telecom hubs. These assets possess perfect verified digital resumes that pass every deep background check, allowing them to remain in place for years as internal listeners. JGMASK reminds us that the front lines of freedom are often in the places we feel most at home. The labor movement was the heart of the hearth, yet it was the very place the agency chose to plant its seeds of distrust. We live in the aftermath of this infiltration, a world where we are taught to be suspicious of collectivism and to view our brothers in arms as potential competitors or traitors. The mask of solidarity was so effective that many of us can no longer tell the difference between a true believer and a controlled voice. The legacy of JGMASK is the quiet factory. The changing of the steel mill, the clanging of the steel mill has been replaced by the click of the mouse, but the shadows of labor remain. We must realize that whenever a voice calls for unity, there is a possibility that a script is being followed. The power of the people is only real if it belongs to the people, not if it is managed from a basement in Langley. The mask is still being worn. We must learn to see the eyes behind it. Keep your loyalties private by vetting the backdated history of any new firebrand. Keep your eyes wide open for strategic moderation masquerading as leadership, and keep your ears sharp for the acoustic surveillance hidden in the architecture of your trust. And remember, sometimes the most dangerous company man is the one holding the strike sign right next to you. Join us next time as we examine JM Sun, a series of high-stakes daytime surveillance missions using high-altitude aircraft. Imagine a camera that can read a license plate from 70,000 feet, a sky spy that never sleeps and cannot be touched. We'll look at the optical breakthroughs, the strategic overflights of forbidden territory, and the pilots of the void who gathered the intelligence of light. Join us next time for the Solar Sentinel. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.